You're the one that I want. Oh, the one I want. Do, do, do. Hey. Hello, what?
Hi, my name is Dakota.
I am Koi.
And we're gonna do a video about
spiritual stuff.
Getting spiritual and stuff. I tweeted on Twitter for you guys to send us a message, some tweets, some messages on that site,
on the stream.
Tweeter. And so I just picked a couple, and we're gonna discuss them because
have a little spiritual satsang.
Because who else better than Koi and I to tell you how to live your life? First question. Question numero uno. How does your ego manipulate us? How does ego manipulate us into duality and keep us away from our oneness?
Okay, well, I think that's pretty easy to explain.
Yeah.
Essentially, the ego is your sense of self. So, I think my biggest problem that I see online is we've gotten to the point now in spirituality where we automatically associate ego with negativity, or ego as a bad thing. And ego isn't inherently bad. Ego is just sense of self.
Yeah.
So you can be the most spiritual person on the planet, and if I call your name and you reply, that's your ego.
Yeah.
That's all it is, you know? You still have an ego, it's always there. So that's your sense of personality. So as long as we have this sense of self, which is very, very hard to break through for a lot of people, when we are aware of it, that's simply us living in a dualistic state. And that's as simple as it really gets, is everything we do.
And you need it. It's like the way for us to sort of navigate through this reality. If we didn't have an ego, how would I eat when I'm hungry? How would I sleep when I was tired? If I felt at one with everything, what's the point of existing? What is the point of having this reality played out to where we are having experiences?
Yeah.
What you have to do is to use our struggles of separateness to bring us into unity. Through our struggles of separateness is guiding us into a more harmonious, whatever this is.
Thisness. And also that's where Ram Dass's teachings come in with the witness. This is just mindfulness. It's not really Ram Dass so much as he terminalizing it as the witness. So a way to see through this duality is to kind of look at yourself from a third party's perspective. So whenever you are hungry, that's the ego saying, all right, Koi is hungry, let's go eat. Koi wants Mexican food, Koi wants Asian food, because Koi likes Asian food. So if you can step back.
Koi like Asian food.
So it's kind of, if you step back in this moment and say, all right, I'm watching myself as Koi, being hungry and wanting this kind of food because my personality prefers it, you start to dissociate with who you think you are. You start to watch yourself play out. And when you can do that, it gets a lot easier to see that in all things, in all facets of life. And that kind of helps you see through this illusory state.
Question 2.
Dose.
What is the biggest struggle for you staying focused on your path?
Ooh, staying focused.
Yeah.
I don't think I have too many problems staying I know what I want to focus on. I think for a lot of people, we know what we want to focus on. So I would say it's a mix between actually implementing what I want to focus on. So, we can always say, I want to meditate, I want to do yoga, I want to practice right speech, but it's a lot harder to implement those actions with what we want to do.
Yeah, like for me, I feel one with the universe intuitively, but like I don't live through it. Like I don't feel like I'm one with this camera right now.
Yeah.
So I think my biggest struggle is just finding a way to constantly live through it. Like I like to think of Jesus this way, the metaphor of Jesus, the resurrection, to be constantly resurrected into the moment, to constantly be in Christ consciousness, focusing on the moment. And that's my biggest struggle, is for me to I've been catching myself out on it though. Whenever I do something, I'm like, oh, you got me. Maya, you got me. Maya's holding my hand. But yeah.
I think another big one for a lot of people too is income, is money. I think money's a huge...
Yeah, because you have to have money to live, so
exactly.
you're forced to dive into your ego.
Yeah, so for me, I'll upload a video on a certain topic, and if it doesn't do great, my ego will be like, oh, you shouldn't do those videos anymore.
Right.
You should focus on this because it makes more money. But if I enjoy that topic, my soul and my being wants to focus more on what matters. So it's kind of that dichotomy of, okay, should I listen to my ego and help feed myself and help support this roof over my head, or should I actually dive into what matters the most to me instead?
Yeah. So, what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to find a healthy balance, or are you supposed to just say,
I
like,
think so.
screw it, I need to dive deep into my spirituality and go live in an ashram? I'm like, that's where I debate.
Exactly.
I'm like, do I find a balance, or do I just go full force?
Yeah, like we talked about this a couple of days ago, actually.
Yeah.
So for me, what I've actually gotten into recently, a state of mental, I guess, being that kind of helped me get away from income is, if I ever get to the point where I just don't want to do any of this anymore, or I feel like I'm losing myself in it, I'm becoming lost.
Or for some reason everything fails and we end up on the street.
And we're just crash and burn. I know that I can always go live in an ashram and spend my time with the universe and God consciousness and realize, and surround myself with beautiful souls and learn as much as I can. And that for me really helped me kind of realize, okay.
Well, it like calms the water, settles the water.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like being afraid to fall into the water, but then you remember you can swim. You're like, oh, okay, it's not too big of a deal if I fall in the water right now because I can swim.
Just keep kicking your feet. Question number 3: Is there any amount of time required to become enlightened, or is it just a lifelong process?
What was that? The third Chinese patriarch we just learned about. The spiritual path is not hard for those who have no preference. No, that's not what it is. Let me check. I want to get it right.
Oh God, what?
So in the third Chinese patriarch, it says, the great way is not difficult for those who have no preference. And that really does, I think, encapsulate very simply, how we can, I wouldn't even say attain, how these states of samadhi or God consciousness or, realization occur is because if we allow spirituality to be kind of a stepping stone path, saying if I do this and I do this and I do this, and then I'll be up there and then I'll be enlightened, it's never going to happen. Whereas, many people over time, if you just kind of sit in this moment and just hang out, it kind of snaps into being. So I guess it's just a balance between you realizing your practice is just trying to get you to a place of not trying anymore, of just being okay with it all.
And the funny thing is, not that I'm enlightened by any amount of standard, but when you have these experiences of like what sort of yogis and gurus and mystics talk about, you're just like, you're already there. It clicks, like, remove all obstacles and enlightenment is what you are.
Yeah, that realization is always there, and
you are already enlightened. The only thing that stops you from realizing it is the fact that
defining things and being part of thingness and saying that's a wall and that's a couch and this is the spiritual path and this is a spiritual path and if I do this it's a spiritual path.
Yeah.
Versus just allowing it all to kind of
happen and
just
be.
And that's where meditation comes in. You can practice you can follow a spiritual path for years. That's not going to help you attain anything. Yeah. Whereas there are people who can have no preference to any spiritual path, are okay with just sitting with themselves, and they enter these states of being that can take certain people studying certain sects of certain religions decades.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any timeline. It just comes down to you realizing it's not an achievement so much as it's a realization, or it's an occurrence that happens when you stop wanting to achieve.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Watts is staring at us.
He's like, what the hell are you guys doing?
You guys have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, right. Okay, question number 4. What was the first time that you experienced your oneness with everything?
My first time I experienced my oneness with everything.
Like where you actually felt like, oh my God, like I get it. I understand what oneness means. It doesn't mean that we're like, oh yeah, we're one human family. Like, no, we are literally inseparable from everything. We are literally one organism.
I say it's a mix of a couple of occurrences. I think for me it was like more so puzzle pieces, and the third one kind of locked it all together. The first was definitely my ego death on mushrooms and MDMA, which I did a video on that we'll have it down below or something. That kind of pulled me out of my physical body, and at the time I was young. I was in my late teens, so I didn't really conceptualize what was going on. But that experience has never left. I can remember every moment of that ego death, like crystal clear. I could spend 30 minutes describing it.
Did you say you shot out of your body?
Shot out of my body. Was looking at myself from like above Earth. I could see everything as one, but my brain just thought of it as like, oh, this is weird. It wasn't really me associating with it. But then what kind of I think hammered it home was a couple of months ago. I had like a weirdly, and again, that's why it's so important to see that these occurrences they just happened because I wasn't meditating, I wasn't doing anything, I wasn't chanting Hare Krishna. I was just walking to go to Whole Foods at night, and I just started having this. I made a Kundalini video on it, but I just kind of had this kind of like feeling go up my back and like come all the way up to my head, and it just kind of in that moment like I just started like tearing up, and I was just like I had that realization of holy shit, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and it wasn't even conceivable with words. I was just kind of walking there, and as I was walking, I was like, this is all just happening, and it's all just occurring. And I mean, I've said it a million times. We can talk about it all day, but when
yeah, when you feel it.
When you feel it emotionally, then that's when it's kind of like, it sinks into your soul, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I came back down like 20 minutes later, and I was just super high naturally from it, and I just, from that point on, you know, I kind of think it sunk a little deeper than it had before when I was just kind of saying, we're all one, we're all one.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of actually resonated. How about you?
I forgot, what was that story that we just heard at the Ram Dass retreat? They were saying, I think it was someone came to like Maharaji or something like that, and they were saying like, what is this? Well, you guys just keep chanting Ram. Like Ram. Like, it's bullshit. It's not doing anything for you. And Maharaji goes, you're right. It's bullshit. But that one time, when it happens at one time,
when you say Ram,
when you say that one time, it just clicks.
And you get it all.
And you get it.
Yeah.
So,
Krishna Das, they also said, Krishna Das said, I think he said something along the lines of, one day, you know, the one thing I hope for is that I can chant Ram with a pure heart.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah.
And just in in complete purity.
So yeah, for me, it was the same sort of thing. Like my experience with like actual feeling the oneness, like feeling it run through my body, not just some sort of conceptualized like philosophy, like actually feeling it and like just living through that was just psychedelics, like you, like most of us,
like Leary, like
yeah, like most of us here in the West, we need that. We need that because we are so lost in ourselves that we can't comprehend doing it without the help of these plant teachers. So yeah, for me, I took mushrooms and the rest was history. And now here I am.
Mushroom Brothers.
And then the last question is, what's your advice for someone that's like new to the spiritual life?
New to the spiritual life.
Where do they start? Where can they take refuge and not feel like they're being weird or?
So many ways to approach it. Obviously, read Be Here Now.
Yeah.
Read Be Here Now.
So apparently, Be Here Now. I didn't know. I don't know the facts, but we watched this Ram Dass documentary last night, and it said Be Here Now was the best-selling book in the English language.
In English language for a couple of years, besides the Bible.
Like
on Wikipedia,
what?
it says it's basically called the Counterculture Bible. So, but besides that, I'd say for me, what worked for me was, if you are starting a spiritual path, look into which theologies work for you, right? So research different religions, pros and cons, just the philosophies behind them, and begin to see what resonates with you, and go from there. So for me, when I fell out of my original religion and got more into the spiritual path, I didn't just jump into anything. I kind of looked through different religions, practices, ways of life, and Buddhism was the first one to kind of call upon me. Your dharmic path is always there. It's just whatever, when you realize it or not.
Yeah.
And so Buddhism kind of called upon me, and I started getting into it. But another thing is not to burn out. I think a lot of people, when they get into spirituality, want to just throw all this information in as fast as they can versus actually taking in what they're learning.
Yeah. And
doing that can be kind of daunting. You can kind of have like a lot of, I think, anxiety attacks and really just intense realizations that you don't even fully understand because you're trying to force this information into your head.
Yeah.
When you haven't had time to even marinate on it yet. So take your time. That's the biggest thing.
Don't get lost in the sauce.
Don't get lost in the sauce. A man without the sauce is lost, but the same man can become lost in the sauce.
From the great
Gucci Mane.
The great guru Gucci.
Baba Gucci.
For me, I think it's real easy to get caught in the specifics, and we talk about this all the time.
Definitely, and terminologies and absolutes as well.
Absolutes.
Absolutes. Don't fall into the trap of absolutes.
I think it was Russell Brand who said, "Be quick to see where religious people are right." And I think all that matters is love.
Yeah,
and as long as you're focusing on love, that's it. All else is chaos. Leave everything else aside.
Yeah.
Focus on love. What else do you need? You don't need any philosophies. Serve people and feed people.
Yeah.
Love everybody and tell the truth.
And the good thing is, I think, and that's kind of why I was so glad I discovered Hinduism, is because when I found Buddhism, I was kind of just droning through it, because I didn't have an emotional understanding of it. I just understood it, on a logical level. And like you said, when love comes into the picture, anything you're practicing either becomes more ingrained and you understand it more and you resonate more with it on a soul level, or you realize you don't even need it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can throw it out and you can just live simply through love. So yeah, I think it all comes back to that. If your practice doesn't begin with love and end with love, then you're practicing for the wrong reasons.
Love is all.
And it's not just love for yourself, but love for everything, essentially. Which is love for yourself on a
which is the paradox of the universe.
It's crazy.
So that was the questions. I hope you now feel enlightened or whatever.
And if you do think you're enlightened right now, you need to do some more research.
Ram Dass said, if you think you're enlightened, spend a weekend with your family.
That's as simple as it gets.
So,
thank you guys very much. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Ram Ram.
Ram Ram Hari Rambo Shambho Shiva. We also filmed a video. There's another video about psychedelics and
Speaking
just
about
taking drugs.
Or whether or not you should do them.
Whether or not you should do drugs. Are they good for your spirituality? Are they bad? Are they gonna break your head and break your mind and make you go crazy like it did for me? Or is it gonna connect you to God and to the divinity inside yourself?
That's over on my channel.
We don't know. So go check Koi's channel if you're
check it
interested
out.
in that. Bye.